It feels like we are always looking everywhere these days for signs of hope. There is a place that always fills me with hope, but it's not a place you'd think to look, so let me tell you about it. When it feels like all the tsuris of right now is insurmountable, just read some Jewish history. I am not kidding. A romp through Jewish history reminds us that Jews have survived everything. After so much bad, we continue to find purpose in the transmitted practice of Judaism. Ledor vador, we are truly a generation-to-generation operation. And here we are gathering in this sanctuary and online to thank God for our first 5,783 years as a Jewish civilization. I have lived only 62 of those 5,783 years and served synagogues for 33. And in my brief stint with Judaism and the rabbinate, the only constant has been change. Only one generation later, rabbis and cantors are different. Congregations are different. Synagogue staffing is different. There were no women or out LGBTQ plus rabbis or cantors in my childhood. There were no development directors and engagement teams. Now there are more Jews of color, Black Jews, Asian Jews, Latinx Jews, Native American Jews, mixed race Jews, Jews across the gender spectrum, Jews by choice, and so many non-Jews happily associated with our synagogue and with synagogues across America. Rosh HaShanah strikes me as the perfect time to ponder the ever-evolving nature of Jewish civilization. Myself, I have been reflecting on changes in our views on intermarriage over the span of my career. And although throughout my rabbinate, I have always proclaimed that every marriage is an intermarriage, if you stop and think about it, in this case, when I speak of intermarriage, I simply mean the marriage of a Jewish person to a person who is not Jewish. I know that this topic has impacted many of you on a personal level. Some of you have felt gratitude toward a rabbi or a synagogue for their openness to perform an intermarriage. And some of you have felt terribly hurt by a rabbi or a synagogue for their lack of openness. At this season of asking forgiveness, I want to acknowledge the pain that Jewish communal decision-making has caused some of you, and I feel deeply sorry. One surprising facet of Jewish history is that intermarriage has happened in every era of Jewish peoplehood. It's in the Torah, and in fascinating research by our own Dr. Lori Pierce, we learned that our ancestors post-Torah intermarried in ancient Judea and in Babylonia. In modern times, Dr. David Myers, in his concise Jewish history that I highly recommend, it'll lift your spirits, asserts that rates of intermarriage rose throughout the 19th and early 20th century throughout Europe. I am speaking to you personally tonight. When I was ordained, some rabbis performed intermarriages, and many rabbis did not, and I was among those who did not. Like many other rabbis of my time, I believed I was ordained to bless new Jewish households with 2 Jewish partners. For this reason, I gladly married 2 Jewish women or 2 Jewish men. And I was thrilled at the large numbers of people who chose to convert to Judaism or who continued to practice their own faith but jumped in wholeheartedly to create a Jewish home. We Reform rabbis have been encouraged to cultivate our own understandings of our purpose for being rabbis and about our own discernments regarding boundaries about officiating. I know it's difficult for many congregants to understand that rabbis differ in their boundaries, but I believe that each rabbi's boundaries should be respected. I have recently joined a growing trend of Reform rabbis moving their boundaries. Why? 2 data points shifted my perspective. First, and I ask you to visualize these 2 numbers, approximately 7.5 million American Jews live amongst approximately 325 million people who are not Jewish. The odds of meeting and falling in love with someone who is not Jewish are high. Second, a Jewish population study, now over 30 years old, revealed that 52% of American Jews were intermarried at that time, 52%. When Jewish prognosticators heard that number, they swore that was the end of Judaism in the United States. Yet recent studies, including the most recent Pew, show a 35% increase in the number of people in the United States who identify as Jewish since 1990. Some of that may be due to higher birth rates in the Orthodox Jewish community. But Orthodox birth rates alone do not account for such an increase. That is to say that Judaism may be growing in spite of intermarriage, or perhaps even because of intermarriage. Statistics aside, what really compelled me to rethink my position on officiating were the growing numbers of congregants whose children had fallen in love with a non-Jewish person and they wanted a Jewish wedding and a Jewish home. And then 2 of my dearest friends' Jewish children asked if I would officiate at their wedding to a non-Jewish person. And then it was one of my own very Jewishly identified, Jewishly immersed children who is in a serious relationship with a person who is not Jewish. This has not always been easy for me. My grandma married a Jew, and her mother and grandmother before her. My mom married a Jew. I married a Jew. It has been a personal process to accept the fact that at least one of my kids may grow up creating a home with a non-Jewish partner. I wondered if I should have done something differently. But as you can imagine, our kids were steeped in Jewish identity and practice. They loved their Judaism as children, and they love it now. At first, I found it hard to tell people. I felt uneasy about what others would say. I felt that I and my child would be judged. As time has passed, and I have seen both my child's ongoing commitment to our faith and their love for their partner, I have had to overcome my struggle and get with the picture. I think that now is the time for all of us to struggle together with any unease, and here's why. People of my generation and before were taught that intermarriage would lead to the end of Judaism. If a child chose to marry someone not Jewish, it felt threatening, like a rejection of Judaism. Today, across the country, we see growing numbers of interfaith couples raising proudly Jewishly identified children. But many of us still internalize the feelings of the past. Historically, intermarriage has been considered a shanda, to be whispered about by others. I know that in my situation, I had internalized that sense of shanda, and I needed to overcome it. I came to realize that the time has come and gone for us to think that stigmatizing intermarriage does anything for Judaism's future. Some Jews who choose to marry will marry Jews, and some will not. As parents, our job is to raise our children with such a love of Judaism that they will choose to establish their own version of a Jewish home, regardless of who they marry. It's important to convey to our children that Judaism matters and we care about the future of Judaism. If a Jewish person wants a rabbi to officiate at their Jewish wedding, I now believe what Rabbi Larry Hoffman, who put it best when he said, "I look upon intermarriage as a chance to interact meaningfully with couples who are going to get married anyway, so they might as well meet me in the process." So if you are a congregant who is thinking of getting married, or you are a congregant with a child who is planning on marrying someone who is Jewish or someone who is not Jewish, encourage them to meet with any of our clergy at Emanu-El or any Reform rabbi. No one knows how to do a joyous Jewish wedding quite like a well-trained, ordained rabbi. Lastly, as a tiny minority of people, 0.2% of the world's population, we must keep our focus on a healthy, sustainable Jewish future. The Orthodox do it their way, and I respect them and I respect halakha. But their way alone will not ensure survival because of the millions of Jews who do not and will not affiliate as Orthodox. We need all streams of Judaism, especially Reform Judaism. First, because many individuals are choosing to convert or choose Judaism because they find Reform Judaism open and welcoming. Let's celebrate everyone who finds love and marries into our people. A temple leader recently commented to me, as 21st century American Jews, we know that present day or future behavior far outweighs lineage or heritage. Let's remember that because someone does not have a Jewish background does not mean they won't have a Jewish future if they choose to. Second, studies are all showing that having a rabbi perform a Jewish wedding ceremony when one partner is not Jewish dramatically increases the likelihood that the couple will be more open to future Jewish practice. I didn't know that. And third, each of us can build the Jewish people, whether or not you are partnered or have children. Transmitting Judaism lador vador to future generations falls on all of us. The more welcoming and open all of us can be, including not whispering about non-Jews and Jews by choice, the better for the Jewish people. Another congregant recently noted that people just want to be seen, loved, and accepted for who they are. Coming for the first time to our community can be awkward and confusing. We can start by opening our arms and hearts wide. We can suspend judgment. This was a hard sermon to write, and I'm sure for many of you, for different reasons, a challenging sermon to hear. So let me end with this blessing. God of our ancestors, please hear our prayers today. We are here 5,783 years later because each in our way we care about Jewish traditions, the Jewish people, and the future of Judaism. God, let our history be a source of hope. Judaism is enduring. Fill us with humility. Help us acknowledge that none of us knows the exact practices that will keep all the different streams of Judaism vibrant 200 or 1,000 years from now. Loving God, let love win. May we say yes as often as possible. May our children know that we will always love them, even when they do things differently than we expected. God, we are indeed a Lador Vador operation. Strengthen our people on this new year.